Good afternoon. How is everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good, good. Were you guys able to mess around with GitHub yesterday, or even today? Anyone have any questions before we begin our next lesson?
So I had the time, but I didn't do the Git. I was working on the exercises that were found in the README.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Before we continue with the next lesson, since we're pretty much done with Git and GitHub, I'm gonna do a quick little run through of what we did yesterday, almost like a speed run, to ensure that we're all on the same page, and you guys can do it effectively. So let me get everything up and running. Where's my GitHub? Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Can you guys see what should be my GitHub profile? Awesome. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So we're gonna open up our terminal. If you guys remember yesterday, we created the example repo. We're gonna go ahead and just delete that. So we're gonna delete it using the rm command dash rf to force remove it, since I remember we had like 2000 there. So we'll just remove that directory completely. And now it is gone. And then we'll just remake it. Example repo. All right, this is gonna be where I want to have my new repository. Uh, it's in there. So let's go ahead and cd into it. Or honestly, we could just go ahead and do code example repo. And that should open up my VS Code with a new directory I just created. Right? That's fine. All right. So in the terminal within our VS Code that we opened up, we see we're in the example repo. Just to double check, we can do pwd to check our where we are, what our working directory is. And we see we are in that directory created. And I'm gonna go ahead and create a new file in here. It's gonna be my example file that we discussed yesterday. Example repo.py. You can make it whatever kind of file you want. You can go ahead and print. This is my first repo, right? So we created that. Then we're gonna go ahead and add everything to our staging area. We created our little item, our file in our factory. It's good to go. So we're gonna add it to the staging area. Put it where everything that has been worked on is complete by using the git add. Oh, my apologies. I didn't initialize my git. So we're gonna do git init, right? Let's gonna go ahead and initialize a git repository within this directory. And then we can go ahead and add it to the staging area. So now it's in my staging area. It's ready to be delivered to the repository. So we're gonna go ahead and do git commit -m so we can add a message. And we'll say my first commit to this repo. We see it was created, and we're good to go. Now, obviously we don't have anything connected to it, so we can go, if we try to do a git push, you'll see we get something here, all right, like a little error message. Well, we're gonna go back to our GitHub repository page. We're gonna create a new repository. I already deleted it. I believe I already deleted it earlier. Double check. Yeah, I did. I deleted the GitHub repository thing. If you guys want to know how to delete a repository, you just go to the repo. You can go to settings, scroll all the way down, delete repository. It's gonna ask if you want to delete it, and then ask you to type something in. Cat memes. Okay, whatever then. It wants me to sign in. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Let's go back to our repositories. All right, so let's continue with the quick lesson. We go to new, create a new repository. We'll call it example repository. No description. Keep it public. And if you guys recall yesterday, I added a readme. And then things got very confusing. So we're gonna go ahead and just leave this out. And then you're gonna see what happens when you don't add a readme. So they gave you a different window than they gave us yesterday. Yesterday, it took us straight to our repository, but today, because we don't have a readme, it presented us with this quick setup guide, right? Uh, and this is what I was looking for yesterday. I was confused why it didn't show up. And it's because we didn't have, because we had created that readme. But here it will show you how to do it. To create a new repository on the command line, you're supposed to initialize your Git, add the readme, and then you can commit just like we did, right? And then we see here Git branch m main. So it's creating a branch and then adding that branch and connecting it to our origin, which is this repository, and then pushing up, right? Or you can push an existing repository from the command line. But it's pretty much the same thing, right? But let's go ahead and go back to our example repo. Gary, I see your message. Yes. You're absolutely right. Yes. I believe I answered that question yesterday, that you can still make a readme afterwards. I see a DM. Awesome, James. Thank you for letting me know ahead of time. Yeah, if you guys have any kind of family responsibilities or whatever, do let me know. And it's fine. No big issue. Just don't ghost me, that's all I ask. But all right, so we're gonna go ahead and follow those instructions. So we can let's go ahead and kind of make it sideways so we can see what's going on here. All right, so we don't have a readme. We can go ahead and add a readme. I'm just gonna keep it empty for now. We're gonna go into Git branch and then call it main. And then we can do the Git remote add origin. And it's just as simple as this, right? It gives you the example Git push origin main. And then straightforward, we created the branch main, added the origin to our repository on GitHub, and then we just push straight into origin. And the commands are given to you right off the bat. So if this is less confusing than yesterday, don't add that readme. If you guys forget how to work with the repositories, that way you can get the quick setup guide. And you can always add a readme yourself through the command line, just like they show here, right? And we see here that branch main will set up to track remote branch main from origin. And if we go back to our GitHub repository, just refresh our page, we get our repository. We see here my first commit to this repo 4 minutes ago. Cool. Everyone good there? Was that better than yesterday?
Yes.
That's confusing. Cool. Awesome. I figured I just there was issues, the merge conflicts, and I know for the first time you see GitHub, if you start looking at GitHub like merge conflicts and you see errors and then you have to like do different stuff like solving either merge conflicts or rebasing, it can get very confusing. And I wanted to make sure that we cleared any kind of confusion. This is what it should look like when you don't have any issues, whatever. But yeah, cool.
So yes, sir. So in a nutshell, we will first make it local, and after we do it local, then we go to the remote.
Essentially, yes. I mean, you can do either or, right?
Okay.
But both ends have to be done. You can't just start from one end and not make the GitHub repository online. So you do eventually have to come back onto your the repository on GitHub and then create a GitHub repository, and then you have to link them, right? But either or, whichever one you do first does not really matter. Just once you're ready to connect them, they show you how. Let's say, for example,
I have a question.
Okay. Yes.
No. Go ahead. I'll wait to ask that.
So let's say you start a personal project. You're working on your personal project. You get to a good point where you're like, all right, I got a good amount of work done. I kind of want to put this on GitHub to make sure I don't mess it up by accident. Right. You've already created like a good chunk of your project. Let's say you go to GitHub, you just go to create a repository, and then you run the steps that they showed you here earlier, and just go to the command line within your project on your VS Code, initialize GitHub, and then it just links it onto a repository on GitHub. It's very simple. You can do it whenever you really want. Does not really matter, but it would defeat the purpose if you don't use GitHub from the start, right? The purpose of using GitHub is to create checkpoints within your project, so you can go back to a state of time if you mess it up, or create different versions that way you don't mess it up, right?
Okay.
But yes, what were you gonna ask?
What I was gonna ask, is there a way to make the remote repo from the command line the same way that we do with the local version, or we have to
So
go through the browser?
if you remember yesterday, we talked about, what's the difference between Git and GitHub? They're two different things, right?
Yes, sir. I
Git is
remember
a
that.
awesome. Git is a local repository, so to do anything on GitHub, you have to log into GitHub. Um, it's like, what's the best way of doing it? It's like, imagine Facebook, right? You take a picture on your camera, right? It's locally on your camera, on your phone, and then there's Facebook, and you have pictures on Facebook. You can take the picture from your phone, and nowadays there's an option to like share, right? When you take a picture, and you can either send it through like Messenger, Facebook, email, text, and you can directly send it, straight from your phone. Um, but if you want to upload directly a picture onto Facebook, you have to go to the Facebook app, log in, and then upload the picture from there. Does that make sense? So they're two
Yes,
different
sir.
things. You can't just upload a picture straight to a Facebook application if you're not in the Facebook application. So same thing. I
I
appreciate it,
understand.
sir. Thank you. But you don't have to be that formal. We're all good
I
here. But
got it. I got
Roger is fine. Thank you.
it. All right.
But I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yeah, you guys can just
For
call me
sure.
Roger. Don't worry about it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so GitHub, two different things. You have to get on there and create a repository, and then find it, link them once they're posted. Cool.
Cool.
But
Thank you.
you are able to create a repository from the command line, I think. Wasn't that what he was asking?
No, I mean, yes, it's a repository, right? But it's like a local one in your computer, right? If you want to create a GitHub repository, you have to get it on GitHub and create the repository there. So you're creating two different repositories and then linking them together, which in a sense end up becoming connected, right? So Git repository and a GitHub repository are two different things. Cool. Any
Hey,
other questions?
Roger, maybe
Yes.
beating a dead horse here, but I know because Guillermo's always saying stay in the terminal as much as you can. There is no way to share, like you can't fork or clone from someone else's remote, right? There's no way to do that. That's what we need GitHub for. Is that right?
I'm sorry. Um, you're asking if there is a way to clone someone's repo from GitHub onto your computer?
No, if we didn't use GitHub, like you can't get your repo to me via the terminal, right? We have to go through GitHub.
Correct. GitHub allows you to collaborate with other people and share stuff. So yes, you would essentially want to get on here. I believe there's an application for Git on your computer. I don't use it too often, so I think you might actually be able to do it on your computer. It's called GitHub Desktop, I think. I don't know. I don't use it often. There might be a way. I don't want to tell you a hard no, right? I think there's a downloadable application you can use. I have it here. I just don't use it.
Okay.
And it should allow you to do stuff like that on your desktop without being on the GitHub website. It looks something like this.
But there's no need to try to figure that out, right? I mean, respectable people use GitHub, right?
Yeah. Everyone uses GitHub. There's different versions of GitHub, right? Depending on what you're doing. Right. If you get a job, you're gonna have like a corporate version of GitHub that has certain restrictions and can do different things than the normal one. But it's gonna. I see Gary. There's a GitHub desktop I have it. So yes, I never use either. But yeah, there's different versions of GitHub, right? So you're not just gonna be using like your personalized one just to do crazy stuff. in your job, right? It's not
Thanks.
how you do this. Don't worry. But it the main thing you guys need to know about GitHub is just how to create a repository, linking it to your local repository, and then just being able to pull stuff in or send it up into GitHub, right? Being able to do that, just knowing that that's a thing, knowing what version control is, and the purpose of GitHub, and being familiar with it, it's just it's good enough, right? You don't have to be a subject matter at GitHub, right? So don't worry too much about it. Right now, for foundations of programming, just have a nice little understanding of what GitHub is, how it works, and how to connect a repository. You'll get a lot more practice once you guys get into the immersive program. Cool. Awesome. Well, hopefully that cleared out any questions that anybody might have had. We're going to go ahead and continue with today's lesson. Was I not sharing this entire time? I'm sorry. Did I stop sharing recently?
No, you were sharing. You could see it.
Okay. Cool. So today we're gonna go over how the internet works in HTML. I'm not gonna go into an in-depth explanation of how the internet works and everything works. It's gonna be a very, very broad explanation, and then we're gonna go into the fun stuff. So lesson 2, how the internet works and HTML. So what exactly is the internet? Who can take a guess?
It's a network of servers that that pretty much talk to one another, allow users access to whatever it provides.
Yes, I was looking a little bit deeper in that. At its bare roots, what is it? And if you have the slides open, you probably already see the answer.
Bunch of computers.
Computers, I guess, are you referring to clients?
Clients and servers.
Yeah, clients, servers, but even deeper than that, what is it?
It's just a way of networks talking to another. Just based off the video we watched, it's just a big wire that transfers data.
It's a bunch of wires, right? Intercontinental wires. I believe that's what you say. I don't know. English is my second language, right? But it's a bunch of wires that are just connected to each other, spread across the globe, right? These wires are connected to different servers that connect to clients, and we see a little small demonstration here, and it's just all a bunch of wires. Stuff isn't just flying in the air, right? But it's all wires and they're all connected together, and stuff are in servers. There's no such thing as an actual cloud, right? I think Kamala Harris thought there was a cloud. There's no cloud out there. Your stuff isn't just in the air. It's in somebody's computer in some building, right?
You just ruined my dreams, man. It's not enough.
All right. Just a quick disclaimer there. Sorry, there's no magical like internet cloud. It's literally in somebody's computer in someone's building on a floor, probably like in China. All right, so just be aware that there's no cloud. It's just a server, a bunch of servers in this building. How you doing, Hamilton? I see you popping. But yeah, so that's the internet, right? So the browser, what does it do? Well, what's a quick little what exactly is a browser?
It's a search engine that just routes your traffic. So instead of typing in a specific IP to get to like one server or another, you type in words and it searches for you and it tries to connect you to the right website or source that you're
Very
looking
close.
for.
Yeah, that's good. It's essentially just a GUI, right? It's just a graphical user interface. It just makes it look pretty for you. It lets people who aren't very familiar with tech, look at something and be able to use the internet. It makes it very family friendly, but at its bare core, it's just a graphical user interface. It looks nice. You don't need to have it look like the way it does for it to actually do its job. But yeah, it allows you to search the internet using IP addresses and whatnot. It's just a visual representation of it. The browser makes what? What do you guys think it makes? It makes requests, right? It takes in the information that you give it. It talks to some servers, sends in a bunch of different data about you and what you're looking for. It checks if you can have access to it or not, looks for the information, and then sends it back. And then it displays it to you and your client, right? And much a nicer picture is this one. In a nutshell, right? You're looking for pictures of cats, so you go ahead and go onto Google on your Mac computer that you spend a month's worth of rent for. You look for cat memes. It sends a request to this web server, gets your information, make sure that you're able to actually receive the information, approves you, send it back to you in a form of a response, and then your browser kind of shows it for you, and then you get happy and you get your shot of dopamine by looking at these cat memes, right? Cool. What does a server do, right? What am I doing? What does a server do?
Holds information.
Yeah, it holds information, right? It sends it back to you, and it presents it to you on your browser, right? In the form of a website that you can visually interpret, right? And if we think about a website, these are the three main components that websites are built on mostly. About at least 80 to 85%, I believe, last time I checked. It was somewhere around 80 to 90% of most websites right now on the internet are made out of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We see here a comparison, right? HTML is your bare foundation for your website. It is the skeleton. This is what holds it essentially together, right? This is like the framework of what your site will look like. That's what HTML does for you. Next is your CSS, which is your cascading style sheets. And CSS is your style. This is what gives you your skin, your facial features, what makes you look pretty, and or ugly. Some of them weren't that lucky. This is what gives you your visual representation, right? So when you look at your website, this is the fonts. This is like whether it's bold, italicized, whether it's big or small, right? The size. That's all the style. This is all just visual, right? You can have a complete website and not use any CSS. It just won't be visually appealing, right? And then finally is your JavaScript, right? This is your functionality. This is what actually makes your stuff move, right? It's cool and all that you might have a website. It looks pretty, but if it doesn't do anything, if you go ahead and click the search bar, and you press, send on your search bar whenever you're trying to look for something on Google and it doesn't go, right? If when you press something on your keyboard like enter for it to search something on your search bar on Google and it doesn't do it, there's a purpose to your website, right? And JavaScript allows you to do that. It bridges that gap from a static website, make it a little bit more dynamic, allowing you to actually move and do stuff, make it work, right? So clicking that button to search for your cat means that's what JavaScript is allowing you to do. It actually sends those requests and brings you back the information, right? The golden rule, right? So when it comes to working with your website, we have a separation of concern, right? We typically want to separate the different types of functionality that we're working with. And we see here on blue, we see what a main folder, and within this folder we have three different files. This is typically very similar to what we call our files, like the naming conventions we use when actually making our projects. Index.html, this is typically the naming convention for what we set our HTML page for. And then as you expand, you can change it up and whatnot. But typically index.html is the naming convention for it. Same thing with the style.css and app.js. Why do we want to separate the HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript? Because it will work. You can put every single, all three of them in the same page. It'll work. If you guys ever looked at people on YouTube and do it, they do it. People do it where they just put everything on the same page. But why would you want to separate everything? Why is it important?
I would say one, if you ever have an issue debugging. For
Yeah, so debugging, updates, right? Any changes. Now imagine if you, because once you start making your applications, you're gonna see how big it gets, especially CSS. If some of you guys like to get very crazy with the styling, we can actually kind of see a little bit of that. Right, this is the HTML, right, of this current page that I'm on. And if you start scrolling down, like this is all the HTML that goes into it. This is all HTML. That is all HTML just for this one web page. If you want to look at the CSS, you want to come down here and check the style. This is the CSS that goes into this web page, all the styling for it, right? But this is the HTML. Now imagine adding the CSS into this, and we're not even looking at the JavaScript that goes into it. I don't know where it's at. I forgot. These are different event listeners. This is some CSS that it has. Yeah, we're not even looking at the actual JavaScript that goes into this. It is a lot. Oh well. But yeah, so imagine having the JavaScript, the HTML, and CSS on the same page. So not only is it a mess, right? You can't get to what you're looking for. Let's say you're making an update on your website. You're trying to change your homepage, right? Imagine trying to get to your homepage, looking for it, and then just trying to figure out what is what within your homepage. You'll get confused the code. Looking at this, can you tell me right off the bat what the heck you're looking at first? What is, where's the title page on this? Where exactly is this? You can't honestly, because you can hover over it. That's just, that's part of the DOM. But if you're looking at your VS Code, this would make it very difficult, right, to have this much information. Now, sometimes you're gonna have different buttons that are very similar. And you have a color scheme that you might want to have on your website. But certain pages, let's say for example, you can start changing the button on everything. But if you have it all within one page and you have the CSS in there, it just makes it very difficult to try to change every single button within there if you don't use it right. So that's why we use the separation of concerns. That along with the functionality, trying to find if you're trying to add the functionality of a button within your homepage, and then you'll understand once you start working on it more, but it just makes it a horrible experience to try to update, change, debug. It just becomes a mess, right? So for organization purposes, HTML syntax. So this is gonna be your basic HTML syntax. I believe you guys probably started doing some of this through the pre-work. Does anybody in this call right now not have any idea about HTML or have never worked with HTML yet? Or just started working with HTML and you're like, fresh. Okay, I see. You haven't one, okay. All right. I do want to make sure because something like it's a big class. I've had smaller classes, and then all of them like know it. But I figured there's probably at least a handful here that probably never touched it. So I just want to make sure so I know who I'm talking to right now. All right, so your HTML syntax, you're gonna think of spelling and grammar rules. That's what syntax is, right? Just kind of how you actually write a certain language. People don't consider HTML and CSS a coding language, so just so you're aware of that. But this is just kind of like the spelling and syntax for HTML. Every piece of content within the file must be wrapped in tags, right? So what is a tag? Your tag An example of the tag is going to be here. This is your P tag, your paragraph tag. A tag is typically it starts with an open and closed caret. Within that caret, you have, or we can just say arrows, an open and closed arrow. You have whatever this tag is. This tag has a P, so that stands for paragraph. And then it has a closing tag right here. It's an open and closed arrow. It has the name of whatever your tag is. But a closing tag has a forward slash, a forward slash, right? And this right here, everything between these two P's is what's within the paragraph. Now you might be a little confused here, like, well, what is this class equals nice within these arrow keys? Well, you can add attributes to your tags, right? Can I draw on my screen? I wonder if I can. Keep it. Never mind. It's off the screen share. So let me see if I can find different tags. HTML tags. I'm going to show you a list of tags. So I don't want you to get confused with the classes or the attribute that's in here, right? This is here. If you go to W2 Schools, you might find a list of tags. The one that we're currently looking at is your paragraph tag. We scroll down to the P and you'll find it here. This is what it should look like. It's an open and close. Can you guys see my screen or is it too small? Right. You have your tag here. The tag, they start with the open arrow and then the closed arrow. And then inside this tag, you have whatever it represents, right? You see here that P is for paragraph, and we have different ones here. You can create a menu. These are menu tags. These are link tags. And then you have to open it with a tag and close it with tag. That's going to create a space where you will put the content of your tags, right? So everything within the opening and closing tag, that is the content of what's going to be inside of your tag, right? Because this is a paragraph tag within the opening and closing tag, that's going to be all a paragraph. Everything within here is a paragraph. Let's look at the opening and closing tag again. We see this one is just a P and nothing else. The closing one has a forward slash. That signifies that this is the closing tag, right? That allows you to kind of know where is my tag starting and where is it ending, right? So that's the reason for that forward slash, so you know which one's the closing one, right? Because obviously if they're both just P's with no slashes, you would get confused. Especially when you have multiple paragraphs back to back to back, you wouldn't know where it stops and where it starts, right? So that forward slash just lets you know where it's closing. And then everything within these arrows is the context of the tag, right? Yeah. And then you're going to encounter some stuff like this, where you have an attribute, right? You're able to add attributes like a class or an ID. And what this does, it essentially categorizes your tags. Let's say, for example, you have a website, you have a homepage, and then you have a gallery, right? For whatever reason, you're using two different colors for your paragraphs and on these pages. On your home screen, you want every paragraph you have in there to be purple. But on your gallery, you want every paragraph in there to be green. Well, how do we differentiate from the paragraphs to know which one we want to change colors to what? Well, by adding classes and IDs, you're able to categorize them, right? So you can name this one, green paragraph, and then you can name the other one purple paragraph. And then for every time you open up a paragraph, you can add the class or whatever ID you give it, and it'll categorize it to that. So whenever you create your cascading style sheets and you want to start, styling everything, you will create one for the purple paragraph and one for the green paragraph. And that's how you separate what is what and how you change different tags to be different styles and whatnot, right? So that allows you to do that in that manner. And then we see here again, within the two arrows, that's everything enclosed within it is the content of that tag. Cool. Does that explain it as simple as possible? Awesome.
So just a quick recap on something you said. So in the CSS file, that's what's used to change as far as how the HTML looks.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to make okay. Thank you.
No problem. Anybody else before I move forward? I gotta make sure everyone's tracking this, especially if you just touched it recently.
Quick question. The difference between an ID and a class, like when would you use an ID again?
So we'll get to it in a bit, but essentially, I'll give you a quick answer. There's different levels of priority, right? If you want these paragraphs to be green, you want another paragraph to be purple, you can add a class and call it whatever you want, right? Let's say there's one unique paragraph within here that's supposed to like stand out from all the other paragraphs, right? It's supposed to have something different. You can add an ID, and that ID holds a higher value than a class. Therefore, it would override anything that was added to that paragraph if it has an ID. And then you know, does that make sense? We'll talk about it in a little bit, but essentially it goes by priority. Which one holds a higher priority than the other ones? One's has more value than the other, and I'll show you the different value of what it has. Right? Instructor HTML page. Right? So this is gonna be my example to you. I'm gonna go ahead and open up my FOP folder. I already have it open, but I'll just go through the steps with you guys. Go ahead and open up your terminal. I'm still sharing my screen, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. You can go ahead and open up your terminal, and I want you guys to navigate to wherever your FOP folder is, the one that you guys cloned yesterday with the GitHub repository for the curriculum. And then go ahead and do code, and then open up your FOP folder in VS Code. Okay, sorry. I was making changes earlier. So you're going to be brought to a page that looks something very similar to this. We are currently on lesson 2. I know we didn't do lesson 1, the git pair, but that's why I did the recap this evening when we started class. But we're gonna go to lesson 2, and we're gonna go into the README. All right, before we go into any kind of assignment, I want you guys to go into the README, and you're gonna see here that you need to install some certain items. All right, I need you guys to install the live server for sure. For sure, you need to install the live server. Install Prettier, as well as Quokka, Rainbow, CSV, and the VS Code icons. That will give you better quality of life, but the one that we need for today's assignment is going to be live server for sure. So to install these extensions, on your left, if you're new to VS Code, you should have like, it looks like a Tetris block, right? You can click that, it should be extensions. And then I need you to search for the extensions. You look for live server first. And you're going to want to install this bad boy right here. There's 2 of them. There's one that says like 5 server. Don't worry about it. That's some bootleg China one. Get this one, right? Install it and have it activated. And we can see here. So what this is going to do for you guys, it allows you to open up the code that you guys are going to be working on, and it's going to open up a browser for you guys. And that way, as you code along in VS Code, you can have that browser to the side, and it will make active changes to your website as you're coding it. Does that make sense? I don't know if I explained that right. It'll allow you to visually see what your code is doing as you're creating your site. And we see here a small little demonstration of it. We have the code on the left side, and they are making changes to it, and they can actively see that it's changing. So live server will allow you to do that. Now, after you got live server, there is the prettier one. Prettier, what that does for you, it's going to make your code nice and neat. I believe, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's a code formatter. This is the one I have, and the one you should be downloading. Prettier dash code formatter. It essentially formats your code to look neat. It'll typically, I believe, it indents your code for you. Sometimes it'll automatically close your tags for you, so you don't have to like navigate left and right. And it color codes stuff for you. But yeah. I had it disabled. I hate myself. But yeah, so make sure you guys have it enabled. The next one we have here is Quokka. I'm not gonna, a lot of you guys, I don't remember that one. I have it, but I don't remember what it does. Quokka.js is what I have. What does it do again? Quokka.js is developer productivity tool for rapid JavaScript, TypeScript, prototyping, runtime editor. Okay. It auto completes stuff for you, I believe. Or I guess it's like a smart version of completing things for you. I don't know. It's a tool that lets you run and debug JavaScript code in your editor with live feedback, code coverage, and rich output. Thank you, Julio. I haven't touched Quokka in a while. I downloaded it just like you guys, and didn't know what it did. But whatever. What will be in your console? Thanks, Juan. So Quokka's there. Rainbow CSV. I believe that one changes your appearance for your stuff. Rainbow. I don't think I had this Rainbow CSV. Yeah, I do have it. Get stuff together. Oh yeah, I do have it. This is what that was. I thought it was just, man, some of these things I have in my VS Code, I just thought it was default. I ain't gonna lie to you. But I guess it wasn't. So we see here it color code stuff for you. Help you differentiate different text, which is pretty cool. And then there is VS Code icons. Let's see which one I have. VS Code icons. And this is to look at your file. So we see here, we have what it would look like if you don't have VS Code icons, and then with VS Code icons, it lets you know what is what. So instead of having to just read the extensions for every file, you have a visual representation of what that file is. If it's a Python file, a JavaScript file, it has that, nice little icon for you to visually see what it is. We see that here on mine. We have the HTML5 as the HTML file and whatnot. If it's a picture, it has like this default landscape picture of a mountain. All right. So for those of you guys that have installed it, I'm assuming everyone's good. Let me get a thumbs down if you're not good and you need me to slow down. All right, awesome. So we're gonna go back to our files and we're gonna do states.html. You guys are more than welcome to kind of read along with me. So the very first thing in your document, when starting an HTML file, I'm going to go ahead and just put, spaces here. I want you guys to ignore the content of this page. This is going to be what you're going to format, right? What's going to go into your HTML, right? But an HTML document, the very first thing that it needs to start off with is the type of document that it is, right? And you're going to start it, just press the open tag, right? And you see here an exclamation mark and doc type, right? If you press tab, it should autocomplete for you guys, but this is going to be an HTML document. I believe there should be a 5 right here, if I remember correctly. But this essentially is going to tell the web browser that you are using a HTML type file, right? It's going to allow it to read it a lot easier. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to open up an HTML tag. And that is going to open up essentially this is where your main website is going to be at, right? Now, actually, I think there's an easier way of doing this. If you guys, I believe if you press exclamation mark, okay, yeah. So if you guys press exclamation mark on your keyboard, delete everything, and then just press tab, it should give you a boilerplate. There we go. This is gonna be a boilerplate, and this is the bare minimum, of what you guys should have on your HTML document, right? We see here, the doc type. This is what's signifying what type of document it is. We have an opening and closing tag right here of HTML. Notice that, oh, notice, right, the HTML tag right here, this is the opening tag, and where does it close? It's down here in the bottom. So essentially it's saying that within this document, this whole thing is HTML, and then we're actually putting the HTML tag within it, right? So you have to ensure that the HTML is essentially like your most outer tag, right? If you were to put your body outside of the HTML, I believe it won't work, or you won't be able to manipulate it. I don't remember exactly what happens. But it is important that you have it within the HTML tag. Everything that you are gonna have in here, everything you're gonna be working with and messing with, it should be within your HTML tag. We see this HTML tag has a certain attribute. It takes the language that you are going to be typing in. So lang equals en for English, right? Then
What is this?
Ooh, I'm sorry, my mic was super loud. What was that?
What is this initial structure known as when we just use the exclamation point?
It's a boilerplate. Essentially, it's just a template.
Boilerplate.
Boiler
template.
Yeah, right. It's just a template, the boilerplate. It's just VS Code does it for you, so you don't have to memorize it. But yeah, there's a lot more other tags that you can use. This is just the bare minimum, and we can go into it if you want. Let's see. There is different. Where's that? What is in here? How do you turn on the live share exe? I'll get to that in a bit, Gary. Right. So here at HTML home, right? This is even showed it here. Easy learning with HTML Trader. So this is a basic boilerplate as well. You have the head, right? It always starts with the type of document you're working with. 85% of your documents are going to be HTML. As I mentioned to you guys earlier, that's what most websites are built off of. So nothing crazy. HTML is what's used, around the industry worldwide. So doc type will probably never really change. After that, you actually open up your HTML tags, and then they're essentially in order of how things go, right? That order is as follows. After your HTML tag is open, the first tag that you're gonna use afterwards is gonna be your head, right? This is gonna be a head tag, and this is gonna pretty much set the settings for your web page, right? Within this head tag, they open and close it, and then within it, the contents is gonna be meta tags, and this was actually gonna set the settings of your website. The first meta tag they added was the character set. Essentially, they're setting the type of text they're going to be using. And this is what's standardly used. Don't ask me why. Don't ask what other standards there are. Why do we use this one? Just know this is how it's done. Okay. There's other ones you can use, but this is what's most commonly used. This type of character set, right? And it's already added into your boilerplate for you, so you guys don't have to stress about it. Here even tells you a small little hint. Authors are encouraged to use UTF-8, right? This is what formats all your numbers, your letters, what character sets you're actually using. The next meta tag we have is how your web page interacts with mobile devices, right? So here, this meta tag is a viewport, and then we want to the content within this one is going to be the width is equal to the device width with an initial scale of 1.0, right? You guys can do more research if you want to see what other types of content there is, different types of width sizes that you can find if you guys like to. Just know that this is formatting how your web page appears on a mobile device. The next meta tag was not that important right now, but it is a nice feature. Changing the title of your document. So this title right here within your header would change the name of your website on the tab, if I remember correctly. Right. So if we look at here, HTML tutorial, this says HTML tutorial because they added that title. Let's see if I can actually see it on the inspection page. If we go to the stuff here, let's see if I can find it. I haven't been the title, but it's commented out. Head. So we go into the head of this website. Here we see title, HTML tutorial. Boom. I'm a wizard, right? So you get, as you see, this is reflects what's on your tab. So that's how that's formatted. I believe I can actually mess around with this. Hello. Yeah, right. This does not stay permanent. I don't think I'm hacking this website. This is just allowing me to like temporarily format it and kind of mess around with it. I can refresh the page and it goes back to its original setting. Cool. This is your DOM, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. But yeah, so you have your title that changes what shows on your tab, and then that's gonna be all we talk about for right now, and we'll build off of this. That's that. That's your closing head. Now, once the doc type has been added, we have our opening and closing tag for our HTML, and we have the settings, which is within our head tag. Now we can actually start messing around with our body. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this bad boy into live server. And it should be as simple as right-clicking your web page and then doing open with live server. And I know we're gonna have some issues here, so we'll talk about them in a bit. Some of you guys might not be able to open it because you're gonna have your port is not set properly, or you're gonna have like a default browser that isn't what you call it, Google Chrome, and stuff like that. I recommend you guys use Google Chrome. That's my next tip. When working with HTML, CSS, use Google Chrome as if you can. Avoid stuff like what's the other one there out there, Firefox, lame. Use Google Chrome, okay? If you guys can. Excuse me. All right. So next, we're gonna go ahead and start actually formatting our HTML. So if you guys remember the text that we had down here that I had you guys unhighlight, we're gonna go into our body tag. Let's go ahead and open up some space just so we can see. Usually you want to indent. I see. Actually, before I start, let's go ahead and take that break. It is 6:23. So I do want to give you guys that break. And then we'll come back at 7:33. All right. And then we can actually start this up. In the meantime, see if it opens up your live server in the browser. If you guys don't go to the restroom or do anything else, see if it works. And I will be right back.
Yeah, let me stop sharing here. All right.
I believe you're muted, Roger.
Oh my God, that's embarrassing. Welcome back. We're gonna go ahead and continue from where we left off. I saw some debugging, which was great. I like to see you guys talking and working things out. Now we left off talking about the body tag. We open up our live server by right-clicking and doing open live server, and it should open up a tab within your browser that you have set up. And we're gonna start formatting what this text should look like. Now, if you guys look at the text, it looks like it's a paragraph, and then it's a list of different cities. I don't know why it's called states. I'm assuming part of their capitals. No, they're not. But what you call it? we're gonna go ahead and format this. So we know the first one's gonna be a paragraph, so we're gonna go ahead and do open including tag for a paragraph. And then it kind of almost auto completes for us. We just press tab. Once you guys get to the P, you should be able to just close it out, and it should put the closing tag for you. I want to say that's prettier. That's working. Doing that for you guys. And then I can go ahead and just move the entire paragraph up within my paragraph tag. Now, typically, you want to have your stuff indented, right? So if we see here on the head tag opens, and then we have the closing tag, and then within it, any other tag that comes afterwards is indented, right? So that's kind of just showing you the different levels of tags and how it kind of just dives deeper into it within itself. And we do that to know what's within what, right? It avoids confusion and lets you know, hey, I know this is my head tag and this is everything that's within my head tag, right? Once you have multiple different tags, and you kind of see it here, this is already done properly. It's pretty cool. Where's that? Oh, this is mine. That's why it's done properly. If we go to the HTML tutorial one, if you just look here, this looks very confusing, right? You don't know where stuff starts and where it really ends, what's within what, how much is within it, right? If we don't use the intentions, you're gonna have something very similar to this. So the intention helps you differentiate what content is within what, the different levels of tags, and so on and so forth. So we open up that first paragraph, and we see it here, real time. It updated. I didn't have to refresh my web page or anything. It updated in real time. Next, we're gonna go ahead and do our list of cities. So to do a list, we have two different types of lists. We have ordered lists and we have unordered lists. Now, where am I pulling this out from? If you guys are not familiar with HTML, you just go to the HTML and check out all the tags. Why is it not working? HTML tags. HTML tag list, right? There are so many tags. We're not going to cover them all. There's so much content to all this. I'm not going to touch on everything. Just know that there's a tag for pretty much everything, right? We're going to cover the most common ones that you're going to be seeing or using. And then why you would use one or the other. Some of these are honestly interchangeable, but they're called differently for specific reasons. And that's mainly for like developers, just to know like what is what. But for a list, we have the unordered list and the ordered list. And it's going to be ordered list for OL. All right, OL is going to be for ordered list. And it's very, self-explanatory. Unordered, ordered list, right? For the unordered list, if you want to make a list that is not ordered, so just bullet points, then that's going to be our UL, right? The order list will numberize everything, right? Because these are just a bunch of cities and no specific order with nothing like that makes them common, we can just go ahead and do an unordered list, right? Go ahead and open up our unordered list tag. And then for whenever we actually want to start listing our stuff here, we're going to open up with LI, right? For every individual list item. We don't see anything here yet, but for the first item we're going to do here, we'll do LI. That should autocomplete our closing tag. And we see it here already start populating. We see a bullet point open up, but nothing within the bullet point because it doesn't have any content within our opening closing tag. You can go ahead and type in Chicago, and then in real time updates for me. And we see that first list item populate. And then just go ahead and do that for the rest of them. And so on and so forth, right? There is a much faster way of doing this. I'm just already committed. So I'm going to start typing them all in here. But notice that the LI, the list items, we indented it after the UL, right? We want to ensure that we know where our list starts, the type of list it is, and then where the list items begin as well. And then after every single list item, I'm indenting it too. Now, granted, honestly, you don't really have to indent these. You can keep it very simple as well because the content of this is so small. It won't make that much of a difference. Now if you have like long pieces of text, then the indentions can come in handy. But you can also just do a line like this, and then just start typing in Seattle, right? So honestly, it kind of like preference, whatever it's easier for you to read. If wherever you're working, they have a set standard, what their SOPs are. But because these are so small, we don't necessarily have to indent here. What are you doing, Quan? Trying to type on my screen. But yeah, cool. New York. Yeah, so you don't have to do it because these are very small, so it's very easy to read. It's gonna depend on what the SOP is for where you're working at. And honestly, what's easier to read for you, how much you're putting within these tags, if it's smarter to indent or not. If this is going like multiple lines, one, get rid of this green dot or green line. Then you might want to indent. But yeah, pretty cool. So that takes care of our list items. Afterwards, because it's not going any deeper, we're gonna go ahead and work on the next paragraph and get rid of this. And then after that list item, it's populating because I unindented it. We're gonna open up the P, and then put this bad boy in here. Cool. Okay. Awesome. And we have our first little page, right? A little web page. Nothing crazy, very simple. But that's kind of how it works, right? This is how your template should look like with the type of document, or type of HTML we're working with, if it's language, our header tag, our body tag, and then everything within the body tag is what's gonna actually be the content of our stuff. But yeah, pretty cool. Now, what if we want a title page in here? Or I'm sorry, a like a title word, something to catch our attention. What kind of tag do you guys think we would use?
H1 or H2.
I'm sorry, come again?
Is it like H1 or H2?
Yeah, an H1. So that's an interesting one to do. We could do an H1, and we can just go ahead and type in states. And this, as you see here, unlike the P tag, it's significantly bigger. And I don't believe it's bolded, but it's, you know, the font is a lot thicker, and it's bigger, right? And why is it different than the P tag? Why is it not the same? Well, the P tag is specifically for a paragraph, right? So it's gonna make it look like a paragraph. But because H1, which stands for header, there's different forms of H1. I believe it goes up to like 7 levels. But you can have H2s, and as the number increases, the form of font that you have actually gets smaller. H1 is going to be typically only used once on your page. That's going to be like your main title page or your main title content, right? What's good to catch the eye of the person, the name of your company, whatever the page is about. You never really want to have multiple H1s. It takes away, and this is more of like a website design thing. So it's not really too important, but typically you only really see one H1, and then the H2s and H3s are used sparingly, and so on and so forth. But as you see, you know, they're different tags, and they already have different default settings that go into it, and different reasons for it. But yeah, cool. We can even go through some of the other tags that we have in here. We have the title tag that we already talked about earlier. We have a video tag allowing you to add video content in here. Script, that's going to be talked about later. It's going to be allow you to connect your JavaScript to your stuff. The order list that we mentioned earlier, nav, that allows you to it's supposed to like do navigation links for like the nav bars that you typically see on your pages, like something like this, right? That's a navigation. We have menus, we have main. Another big one you see is gonna be divs, right? Divs defines a section in a document. Typically, we use divs to kind of categorize different things. So somewhat like a box, if you think about it. M for emphasizing text. We see bold as a B. B defines bold text. So there's different types of tags that we can see here. If we were to use a B here, for example, we have our paragraph tag, right? If we wanted everything within this paragraph to be bold, we would essentially within this P tag, we can open and close a bold tag, and then add the text within this tag. And as you see, it'll change this paragraph to bold, right? So notice we have the open and close paragraph tag, and then within it, we have the open and close bold tag. And then within that tag, we have the content that we want to bold up. So essentially, the very sub level of this is the content itself, and everything. The content of the paragraph is wrapped around both the bold tag and the P tag, right? And that's important to keep in mind. It would defeat the purpose if we just had it like this, right? Even though the bold is within the P tag, it's not wrapping the content around. Uh-oh. Oh no. Oh no. All right, cool. But yeah, so moving on. That concludes our example, our instructor example. We'll continue on with the PowerPoint slide. So just a few tags here. We have article. Article is typically leads to a different page on your website, right? We use an article tag to kind of let our developers know, hey, the content within this tag leads to an actual article. So articles typically are a form of link to navigate you somewhere else on your website that's supposed to lead you to like an actual article. Anchor tags. Anchor tags are used for links. So if you were to wrap a document within this anchor tag, it would create a hyperlink, right? So we remove the bold tag that we had earlier. We're gonna use our anchor tag that we just learned. And then we can move the contents of this paragraph within here. Now we return back to our document. Why are you sleeping? Let's see. What is going on? No. I don't understand why it's not doing it. Are you using it wrong? No, I shouldn't be using it wrong. Define the hyperlink. Here we go. Oh, that's why. Yep. The href. I forget the href. Href is equal to wherever I want to send it to. Let's just say Google. Google.com. There we go. There we go. So we have the anchor tag. We have the content itself, right? So the content is going to be what is shown here on your page, right? But where it sends to you is declared by the href. And we just put Google here just for a small demonstration. We can click our hyperlink that we created and cannot get FOP or whatever. It's trying to send us somewhere else. I wonder if I could do www.
You have to use HTTP because it's trying to go localhost.
Yep. There we go. It's trying to send me to a different location in my directories. But here we go. So as we see here, it sent us to Google, and that's how that is done. So everything within the anchor tag itself is what's actually going to be shown to you guys here on your webpage, and then the href will direct you to a different location. So we have our anchor tags. P for paragraph, spans, short pieces of text. I don't really use those too often. We have our list, right? So we talked about the order and unordered list. That allows you to remember it a lot easier. Next is our headers, right? So our heading elements, we have our H1s, H2, so on and so forth. Those are like your title, text that you typically have. What starts like, this is my homepage, my H1, that's like, google.com, right? That's typically probably like would be your H1. And you can always like format what these tags do as well. You can make your H1s to be a lot bigger, change the color of H1s or H2, so on and so forth. Divs are a containing element. So as mentioned before, it's kind of how people categorize different things or contain different segments. For example, let's look at a web page. Someone give me a popular web page that isn't social media. Anybody? The brain rot is real.
Would CNN.com be one?
CNN.com. That's perfect. All right, so CNN.com, right? Want to watch? Oh man, I'm missing it. No. Oh, okay. I think I said that. It's gonna be crazy, dude. Crazy. All right, let's not get political. Let's go to the. If we go to inspect, right? This is gonna open to you some kind of. It's usually referred to as like a DOM, and it allows you to, kind of visually see everything on a web page and manipulate it. It won't change anything permanently for you guys. But the DOM itself will allow you as a developer to kind of see what different things are. And you can even press this dotted square at the top left right here with the arrow. And then it'll allow you to highlight different parts of your web page. And then it would send you within here on your elements of where it is located at. So we can kind of see different things using our mouse. And I just want to point something out, right? So these are all kind of segmented. You don't realize it, but they're segmented. They're categorized. And here's a very quick one. This little section right here, which is supposed to hold like what's supposed to catch your attention, right? As a consumer, you come here, what catches your attention? We see here, boom, right off the bat, it's what to watch for in Harris and Trump's showdown, right? We can hover over that. And what is that exactly? It's literally just an anchor tag. Oh, why isn't that? Go sideways. Whatever, bro. Let's go back to it. It's an anchor tag. It's called zone title URL. I think if I expand this, there we go. It's literally just an anchor tag, but I'm sure we went to the CSS and checked what exactly is the zone title URL. I'm sure this CSS right here is like probably making it super big, right? But that's like the main idea of it. I wonder if they have an H1 tag in here. Is there a search bar? I don't remember there is. Search H1. I should have been more descriptive. This is the JavaScript in here. There is H1 mentioned, but it's not what I thought it was. They're not using H1 tag. That's crazy. They're probably just manipulating other parts of these of the web page itself. But let's go back to the elements. I'm getting off track. This one, right? What's supposed to be the main attention getter here. Let's look at it. We see it's a div, right? Div dot container item media dot container. It's a bunch of stuff, right? But if we look on the right side, it highlights the div, right? It's a div. What's it within this div? We can open it up. Within this div is another div. This div just overall holds everything that's supposed to be in this section. Well, what else is in this section? Because we see it, there's a div within this div. I'm sorry, my computer is absolute trash. Save her. All right, within this div, we have a picture Jesus Christ, bro. Just do what I want you to do. Why is that so hard? Oh, I think it changed. It populated. That's probably why it's having issues. More of the story is the divs are used to categorize and box these together that are relevant to themselves, right? So this overall, this div right here holds the contents of not only the picture, it's gonna hold the text, it's gonna just essentially, what's the word I'm looking for? It boxes it in, right? And then over here, we see another one, a div container. All right, so it's another box. This box is holding these 2 pages. It's holding a video. We see here, there's another div within it, right? What else is here? And then there's another div within that. One holds a container. Another div within here. What is this div holding? Holding a card label. It's holding the span, which holds the text, right? One is holding the video text. Essentially, just boxing things in. What is holding these divs in? A much bigger div. Look at this. Without me clicking my screen because I don't want it to mess it up, look at my bottom left of my window. We see div.zone inner, right? So it's essentially just boxes within boxes within boxes, right? And what that allows you to do, it allows you to manipulate things when you start styling your website a lot easier, right? There's no point of trying to add individual formatting to so many different individual elements when you can just kind of box them together. And then I'm going to format overall. For example, let's say I wanted to, how would I categorize or how would I format these 3 boxes side by side? Well, I would have to put them all within a box and then format the content of that box, therefore formatting these main boxes. And then once I have all 3 of these boxes lined up, then I can go within each individual div and format the contents that's inside here to make it look this way, right? You probably wonder how do they get it to look this size, to be this high up, right? Why is this font different? Why is this lower? How do they just do all that? It's by boxing them in using divs. Cool. Moving on. Form is a tag that allows you to take user input, and then use that user input for whatever means you're using it, right? Whether you're taking, a survey, there's someone who's creating an account, so you create a form so they can give you their information, and then you take that form, you can use the contents that was submitted to that form, for whatever you're using it for, right? So form allows you to do that, right? See if I remember how to do that. Let's go here. We can do form. Let's put this bad boy back to its right. Let's get rid of these headers. We'll keep one header. Actually, let's move this form to the very bottom. All right. And then within this form element represents a collection of form associated elements, some of which can represent editable values that can be submitted to a server for processing, right? And the way it's going to work is we're going to use input tags, right? I believe are these self-closing tags? I haven't used it in a while. I believe these self-closing tags. Input tags creates a area for you to take input from the user, right? We saw it here. The moment I put the input tag, we saw this box populate. And it allows you to take an input. Where's my input tag? Yeah, okay, that's correct. So here we see the form, right? We have label and input. We'll get to label in a bit. There are certain tags that are considered almost like self-closing tags, and input is one of them, right? So input, there's different forms of input. and this is why I wanted to come to it. And we see here the different types. The default one was a box that you could put in information. But if I wanted to change that, which I'm sure you guys seen from different surveys or different forums that you've encountered throughout your life, you see circles, drop down buttons. Well, how do we change that? Well, it's by changing the type of your input tag. So within your input tag, you can go ahead and do type equal, and we can do something as simple as button. Why are you losing it? Button, right? We see how it changed. Well, as we saw earlier, we also have what's called a label tag, and this allows you to add content to it or context, right? So it can be choose. Actually, we can do choose a city. Or we can actually do here right here. H2. Choose a city. And then within this label, we can add Atlanta. All right, Atlanta. And then, did I misspell label? Am I dumb? I did. Close your eyes. Let's get rid of that L. English is my second language. Our label. Let's go ahead and make the next one. We're gonna do 2 for the sake of time. Detroit. And then add our input tag. Type is equal to button.
Question, Maraja.
Answer.
Why doesn't the input have to have a closing tag?
There are some that are called self-closing tags. They're very unique. I don't know why they changed or why there's 2 different versions of it. What's the purpose of them? Just know that there are some that just take an opening tag, right? I wish I had a better answer for you, but I honestly not quite sure.
Thank you.
No problem. So yeah, so that's how the form works, right? It gets more in depth of how to submit it, which we're not gonna get into just yet because that's more JavaScript stuff. But we see here the different types. We can try other ones just so you guys can see them. We can do email. I don't think I've ever done email one before. I believe it's just an input one. Very straightforward. Yeah. Right, but it's a little bit longer. And there's probably some form of regex behind this as well, because it's specifically a email type. Let's do a month. That's a nice one. See what that looks like. Month. You can see here, it gives you kind of like a default version of what months looks like. Already pre-built for you. And there's different ways that you can change this and make it look cooler, which we'll get to later. What's another one? Radio is a very popular one. You see these a lot, especially when you guys are taking your like brain tests and you're trying to choose different answers or whatever, or your suicide prevention answers, right? And you put yes or no. These are radio, right? Your surveys. All these surveys that you see where you choose, how much did you enjoy this product, or on a scale of 1 to 5, does your leadership bully you, right? Your radio. There's different forms of other ones as well, which we're not gonna get to it, so just know that they're available for you. Cool. For nav, that's for a navigation bar. We could talk about this one. Essentially, it's more of a list. It's very similar to what a list would look like. That's essentially what a nav bar is. If you're to look at the CNN webpage and you didn't know what a nav bar is, how would you probably format this? Right, you will probably create a list, right? This list would be called like unordered list, right? And then you will list different items that are within this navigation bar, and then you would just do some styling, right? You would change, ensure like you get rid of the bullet point. You probably make sure they're side by side, right? At its core, foundation, a navbar is essentially just a freaking list of items, right? So we're not gonna get too much into nav. But there's so many more out there. Feel free to kind of look through them and experiment when you guys start working with these and when we go to some assignments. But just know that those are available for you. HTML structure and extractor in example. So we kind of already covered this earlier, right? But we're gonna go ahead and just talk about it real quickly. For your doc type, right? Static clear is the document type that you're gonna be using and the version of HTML. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to have 5 in there. There's different versions of HTML, but the newest version right now is HTML5. It specifies the document it is written in. HTML5 being the most latest. Next is gonna be your header, and the header section contains pretty much just meta information about the document itself. And your settings, right? We have a title we discussed, that's same thing as a tab, and then your body, which essentially holds the main meat and potato of your HTML. This is where you're gonna put your paragraphs, divs, headers, navbar, so on and so forth. And then to close it all off, we have the HTML, right? Everything that's gonna be the content of your web page has to be all within the HTML. The HTML is your root tag. That is where, like, the outer side of your web page. Cool. Awesome. Student practice. All right, brownies.html example on GitHub. I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys do that yourselves. If we go into our listen to folder, you will find the brownies.html page. It looks something like this. I'm going to leave it to you guys to format it and make it look into a nice little web page, right? The content that you need are already on here. You're going to encounter some of them that we did not talk about. One right here, as you see, brownies.jpg. .jpg is an image, right? We have already a hint for you guys. Figured out how to do it. As I mentioned to you guys before, a lot about programming is knowing how to find the answers, right? I can sit here and talk to you through every single tag and every attribute that goes into each tag. You're not going to learn it. There's too much. There's too much. We will be here forever, right? So just know if there's something you want to do, there's probably a way to do it out there and know how to find it. Cool. So use W3 Schools. I like W3 Schools. I don't know if there's other better websites. You see me use it here. It's typically very user friendly. It even lets you try it yourself, right? So you can click the try yourself page and it sends you here with an example code and it shows you what it's supposed to look like, right? So W3 Schools is awesome. It has everything: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, SQL, so on and so forth. And there's a bunch of other ones here, but I am zoomed in so you can't see them. Time is 7:07. I'm going to allow you to work on this till 7:30. At 7:30, I want you guys to go on a break, right? And then we will continue this at 7:40. Right? So you have between now and 7:30 to actually work on it. If you guys want to work through your break, I don't care. Just know at 7:40, we're going to come back. Now, I have a question for you guys. Would you guys like to just do this on your own? Would you like to be broken off into groups? And if you want to be broken off to groups, how big is too big?
Just do it on our own, unless anybody objects.
I agree with you.
No, I agree.
Awesome. Okay. So today's assignment will be on your own. Go ahead and do it. I'm going to break you off into breakout rooms. And I only do that because in case anyone has any questions, you guys are more than welcome to come into to my breakout room and we can talk through things without bothering other people. Assign automatic labor to, okay. How many people are in this chat? 17. So I'm opening these breakout rooms. They should send you automatically there. If you guys have any questions, do just come back and talk to me. All right. Yeah. Go ahead, create this. I was not recording. Oh, it's so sad, dude. Anyways, just go ahead if you don't mind. Owen, open up that screen, zoom out, kind of just scroll from top to bottom. Let other people see that are gonna see this recording, kind of just see what you did, and then afterwards just show your page, just so we can have it recorded here. If anyone outside of the class, I know some people have dropped and some people are gonna drop. Some people are gonna want to see this recording later.
Yeah, so you want me to describe it again or just zoom
No,
out?
don't bother describing it. Just kind of just slowly scroll from top to bottom of your HTML document, and then once you reach the bottom, just switch back to your main page so we can see what it looks like. I see Julio Chavez, you said, how do you show live server in VS Code? Were you the same person? You're not fine. Okay, never mind. So if you want to use live server, you're gonna right click your HTML document, and then there should be an option to open with live server. In the event you don't have that, at the very bottom right of your VS Code screen, you should have an option that says go live. And it should open up a browser with your document, right?
Okay, so I got the one where you're able to right click. Where was the bottom? You said bottom right. I just want to see it on the VS Code like Owen had it.
Yeah, on the bottom right, there should be something that says like go live. You don't see it on the bottom right corner, somewhere on the bottom right. If not, it does not matter. As long as you're able to open it some shape, way, or fashion, that's fine. If you can right click and put open with live server, that's perfect. That's why I like to use anyways. But yeah.
Okay.
Hey Owen, how did you get the numbers in your order list? Jesus, I see your question. So as you recall, we had the unordered list and ordered list. An unordered list will default at bullet points. If you put ordered list, it will add numbers. So OL for ordered list. All right, so moving on. Let me open up my screen, share. Okay, so that was the student practice brownies.html. Hopefully you guys got a nice warm and fuzzy account example of that. The next one is gonna be the final assignment for the day, which is gonna be the BBC example. You guys can use BBC or CNN. Let's check out how BBC looks like right now. BBC.
Roger, we're seeing your desktop.
Oh. Thank you for letting me know. How do I stop sharing? Share. Can you guys see my BBC webpage? Oh man, everyone's
Yeah,
talking
that's the
about.
BBC now. Yep.
Awesome, cool. So BBC and honestly CNN look the exact same thing apparently. So I'll let you know how the media is controlled by the same person. But here you go. You can either do BBC or CNN. I do not really care. But it's gonna be student practice, right? As I mentioned before, I encourage you guys to use CSS, inline CSS, or like inline styling. Don't make it a CSS document. Do not link a CSS page. All right, just keep it all aligned. It's not what you would typically want to do, but it's good practice so you guys can kind of manipulate with how to do it. There is different ways of doing inline CSS. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Tailwind. Tailwind's very popular for inline CSS. Some people use it, some companies use it. It's not that widely known, but it's always good practice kind of to learn that you can do it, you can use it, and if you ever need to use it, you know how to. So use some inline CSS to kind of try to get this representation of what your website should look like, right? We have the CNN or BC website. Either one will do. I don't expect it to look perfect. I don't expect it to look just like this. But do what you guys can. Either one is fine. Take advantage of W3 schools to learn what the other tags do. And I believe there might even be an option here for HTML and styling. So if you don't know how to do inline styling, there should be attributes, HTML styles. Here we go. I am red, I am blue, I am big, and then it shows you how to do a style, right? So it's style and then properties. There's different types of styles to use, how to manipulate the color, so on and so forth. There should be a list somewhere. Use a style attribute for styling HTML elements. Background color. So experiment, do some research, check it out, and have fun with it. For this one, I'm gonna break you guys into teams. Because I would like to see you guys talking and seeing and kind of working with each other. Um, the time is 7:51. Uh, this one is more intense than the other one because you want to replicate as best as possible the CNN and BC website. So time is 7:51. We will do this until 8:30. You guys will be in teams, help each other out. 8:30, go on break. 8:40, we'll return, and then we'll have another volunteer, kind of show what they were to come up with, and from there we'll be done for the day. Sound good? Awesome. Stand by for the breakout rooms.
Line CSS.